The mountain air felt crisp against Sophia Chen's face as she stepped out of the taxi, her breath forming small clouds in the cold December morning. She pulled her worn coat tighter around shoulders and looked up at the massive stone mansion that would be her home for the next month. The building rose like a fortress against the snow-covered peaks, its tall windows reflecting the pale winter sun. At 28, Sophia had worked in some of the finest restaurants in San Francisco, but she had never seen anything quite like this place. The Montenegro estate sat isolated among ancient pine trees, far from the noise and chaos of city life. It was exactly what she needed after the disaster her life had become just 3 weeks ago. The discovery of her boyfriend's betrayal still felt like a knife in her chest. 3 years with James, 3 years of believing they were building something real together, only to find out he had been seeing someone else for months. Someone with better connections, more money, a family name that opened doors. Someone who was not her. The mysterious master of the House Damas. The elderly butler who greeted her at the massive wooden doors had kind eyes but a worried expression. He carried her bags with practiced ease, his movements careful and quiet. As he led her through halls lined with oil paintings and antique furniture, "Mr. Montenegro is not receiving visitors at the moment," Thomas explained as they walked through the grand foyer. "He has been going through a very difficult time since his brother Roberto passed away last month. The two of them built their technology empire together, and losing Roberto has been devastating for him." Sophia nodded, understanding the weight of such loss. She had been hired by Gabriel's father through an exclusive agency with specific instructions that discretion and patience would be essential. The pay was generous enough to help her start over somewhere new, which was exactly what she needed. Her room was in the east wing, decorated in warm browns and deep reds, with a fireplace that crackled welcomingly. The view from her window showed endless mountains and forests, beautiful but somehow lonely. Thomas showed her the kitchen, a chef's dream with professional equipment and a pantry stocked with the finest ingredients. "Mr. Montenegro has not been eating regularly," Thomas said quietly. "We hope that having someone who truly understands food might help him find his way back to taking care of himself." First encounters in silence that evening, Sophia prepared her first meal for Gabriel Montenegro. She chose comfort over sophistication, making a rich mushroom soup with homemade bread and a simple apple tart. The kind of food that spoke to the soul rather than impressing the mind. She arranged everything on a silver tray and walked to the study where Thomas had said Gabriel spent most of his time. She knocked softly on the heavy wooden door. No answer came. She tried again, a little louder this time. "Mr. Montenegro, I'm Sophia, your new chef. I've brought dinner." A long silence followed. Then a voice that sounded rough and tired came from behind the door. "Leave it there. I'm not hungry." Sophia stood there for a moment, studying the closed door. Something in that voice told her this man was drowning, and food was probably the last thing on his mind, instead of leaving immediately. She settled into a nearby chair and waited. 2 hours passed before she heard the soft click of the lock. Turning through her half-closed eyes, she watched a tall figure emerge from the study. Even in the dim hallway light, she could see he was handsome in a dark, intense way. His black hair was messy, as if he had been running his hands through it. His clothes looked like he had been wearing them for days. Gabriel Montenegro moved like a man carrying invisible chains. He bent to pick up the tray, and Sophia caught a glimpse of his face, even marked by grief and exhaustion. He was striking. There was something about the set of his shoulders, the careful way he moved, that told her he was trying very hard to hold himself together. He disappeared back into his study with the food, and Sophia remained in her chair, not entirely sure why she felt the need to stay. There was something about this broken man that called to a protective instinct she did not know she possessed, building trust. Through small acts the next morning, Sophia found the tray outside the study door. The soup bowl was empty, and most of the bread was gone, but the tart remained untouched. She took this as a small victory and began planning the day's meals with more hope. She spent the morning exploring the kitchen and the house, learning the rhythms of the place. Thomas was helpful, sharing stories about Gabriel and Roberto's childhood in these halls. They had been best friends as well as brothers, building their first computer in the mansion's basement when they were teenagers. Gabriel was always the quieter one, Thomas told her as she prepared lunch. Roberto was the dreamer who came up with wild ideas, and Gabriel was the one who figured out how to make them work. They balanced each other perfectly. For lunch, Sophia made Gabriel's meal from scratch pasta with a simple tomato sauce that filled the entire house with its rich aroma. This time, when she knocked on the study door, she did not wait for an answer. "Mr. Montenegro, I know you might not want company, but I think eating alone makes everything taste worse. I'll just sit out here while you eat, if that's all right." Again, silence. But something had changed in the quality of that silence. It felt less empty, more like someone was actually listening. Sophia settled into her chair and began talking quietly about simple things. The recipe she had used for the pasta sauce, how her grandmother had taught it to her, the way certain foods could carry memories and comfort. She was not sure if he was listening, but speaking to the closed door felt less strange than she had expected. When the door finally opened 3 hours later, Gabriel paused when he saw her still sitting there. In the better light, Sophia could see him more clearly. He was probably in his mid-30s, with olive skin and dark eyes that looked like they had seen too much pain recently. Despite the obvious exhaustion, there was an intelligence in his gaze that made her pulse quicken unexpectedly. "You're still here," he said, his voice less rough than the night before. "I told you I would be," Sophia replied simply. Gabriel studied her face for a long moment, as if trying to solve a puzzle. "Most people would have given up by now. I'm not most people." Something shifted in his expression at those words. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but Sophia caught it. A tiny crack in the wall he had built around himself. The first real conversation, and the third day, everything changed. Sophia was in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to find Gabriel standing in the doorway, watching her work. He looked slightly better than before, as if he had finally gotten some real sleep. "What are you making?" he asked. Sophia tried to hide her surprise at hearing him speak first. "Chicken with herbs and roasted vegetables. And chocolate cake for dessert." "Chocolate cake," Gabriel repeated, and for the first time, she saw the ghost of a smile cross his face. Roberto loved chocolate cake. He used to say it was proof that life had good things in it. Sophia continued cooking, letting him talk, if he wanted to, or stay silent if he preferred. "He died in a car accident," Gabriel said suddenly, coming back from a business meeting in Los Angeles. "The police said he fell asleep at the wheel." Sophia set down her knife and turned to face him. "Fully, I'm so sorry for your loss." Gabriel leaned against the doorframe, looking older than his years. "We did everything together. Built our company from nothing, traveled the world, made decisions as a team. I don't know how to be just me instead of half of us." The raw honesty in his voice made Sophia's heart ache. She recognized that feeling of losing your sense of self when someone important was gone. "When my grandmother died, I felt like half of my cooking knowledge died with her," Sophia said softly. "She taught me everything I know about food, and suddenly I was afraid I'd forgotten all the little tricks she never wrote down." Gabriel looked at her with interest. "What did you do?" "I kept cooking, every day, even when it felt pointless. And slowly I realized she was still there in everything I made. Her lessons, her love, her wisdom, it was all still part of me." Gabriel was quiet for a long time, considering her words. When he spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. "Maybe you're right. Maybe Roberto is still here in different ways. I think people we love never really leave us," Sophia said. "They become part of who we are." Gabriel stepped further into the kitchen, moving closer to where she was working. "Can I help with dinner?" Sophia handed him a bowl of vegetables to wash, and they worked together in comfortable silence. There was something peaceful about the shared task, something that felt like the beginning of healing for both of them. As the evening progressed, Sophia realized that she was no longer just the hired chef. She was becoming someone who mattered to Gabriel Montenegro, and he was becoming someone who mattered to her. The attraction was unexpected and probably inappropriate, but it was also undeniably real. Looking at Gabriel as he carefully chopped vegetables, his dark eyes focused on the task, Sophia felt something shift inside her chest. This broken, brilliant, Man was awakening feelings she had not expected to have again so soon after. James's betrayal. The thought should have scared her, but instead, it felt like the first spark of something beautiful beginning to grow in the darkness they both carried. As they sat down to eat dinner together for the first time, Sophia realized that she was no longer just healing Gabriel. He was healing her too, in ways she had not even known she needed. The mountain winds howled outside the mansion walls, but inside, two wounded souls had found the beginning of something that might save them both. The days that followed their first shared dinner created a new rhythm in the Montenegro mansion. Gabriel began joining Sophia in the kitchen regularly, first just watching her cook, then gradually helping with simple tasks. There was something therapeutic about the routine of preparing meals together, the way they could work side by side without the pressure of constant conversation. Sophia noticed small changes in Gabriel each day. He started shaving again, changed his clothes more frequently, and the deep shadows under his eyes began to fade. More importantly, she could see glimpses of the man he had been before tragedy struck. When he smiled, which happened more often now, his entire face transformed. "Tell me about your restaurant dreams," Gabriel said one morning as they prepared breakfast together. He was whisking eggs while she sliced fresh fruit. Their movements coordinated like dancers who had practiced together for years. Sophia paused in her cutting, surprised by the question.
Ow.
"How did you know I wanted to open a restaurant? The way you cook? It's not just about feeding people. You cook like someone who wants to create experiences, memories." Gabriel poured the eggs into the heated pan, the sizzle filling the comfortable silence between them. "I've been saving for years," Sophia admitted. "I had a plan, a location picked out, even a name. Memories Kitchen. But then James happened, and I discovered that our joint savings account was emptier than I thought." Gabriel's jaw tightened at the mention of her ex-boyfriend. Over the past week, Sophia had shared bits and pieces of her story. Gabriel had developed a clear dislike for the man who had betrayed her trust so completely. "What kind of food would you serve?" Gabriel asked, his tone carefully neutral. But Sophia could hear the genuine interest underneath. Comfort food from around the world. The kind of dishes that make people feel at home no matter where they're from. "My grandmother's dumplings next to my friend Maria's empanadas. Classic. American mac and cheese alongside Italian risotto." Sophia's eyes lit up as she spoke, her hands gesturing expressively. Gabriel watched her face as she described her dream, and something warm spread through his chest. This was the first time since Roberto's death that he had felt genuinely interested, and something genuinely hopeful about the future. "That sounds incredible," he said softly. "Roberto would have loved a place like that. He was always trying new foods, dragging me to hole-in-the-wall restaurants in whatever city we were visiting." Sophia touched his arm gently. "Tell me about him. What was he like?" Gabriel leaned against the counter, his expression growing distant, but not painful. "He was my opposite in most ways. I was cautious. He was impulsive. I planned everything. He jumped first and figured it out later, but somehow we made perfect business partners. Unexpected visitors, their peaceful routine was shattered on a gray Thursday afternoon when the sound of car engines echoed up the mountain road. Sophia looked out the kitchen window to see two expensive cars pulling up to the mansion's entrance. Thomas appeared in the kitchen doorway, his expression troubled. "Mr. Gabriel, your mother is here. She has brought Miss Camila with her." Sophia saw Gabriel's entire body tense at the news. He had mentioned Camila Santos only once, describing her as his ex-fiancée who had ended their engagement 6 months before Roberto's death. From the little he had said, Sophia gathered that Camila came from the same wealthy social circle as Gabriel's family, and that their relationship had been more about expectations than genuine love. "I should go greet them," Gabriel said, but he made no move toward the door. "Do you want me to disappear?" Sophia asked, recognizing the complexity of the situation. Gabriel looked at her with an expression she could not quite read. "No. You belong here. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." The intensity in his voice made Sophia's heart skip, but before she could respond, voices echoed from the main entrance. Gabriel straightened his shoulders and walked toward the front of the house, his posture shifting into something more formal and guarded. Sophia stayed in the kitchen. but she could hear the conversation clearly through the mansion's acoustics. "Gabriel, darling, you look terrible," came a woman's voice, crisp with authority and concern. "I knew it was a mistake for you to isolate yourself up here." "Hello, Mother," Gabriel replied, his tone polite but distant. "I told you there was no need to come." "Of course there was a need," a second, younger woman's voice chimed in. "You've been hiding away for weeks. It's not healthy, Gabriel." Sophia felt an immediate dislike for the second voice. There was something calculating in its sweetness, a tone that reminded her uncomfortably of women, who had always made her feel inferior in social situations, the confrontation against her better judgment. Sophia found herself walking toward the main room with a tray of coffee and pastries. She told herself she was just doing her job, but truthfully, she was curious about these women who had such strong opinions about Gabriel's recovery process. When she entered the elegant sitting room, 3 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Gabriel's mother, Alina Montenegro, was a sophisticated woman in her 60s, with silver hair and the kind of jewelry that whispered rather than shouted wealth. Camila Santos was stunning in the way that money and good genetics could create, with flowing dark hair, perfect makeup, and a designer dress that probably cost more than Sophia made in a month. "And who might this be?" Camila asked, her tone friendly on the surface, but with an undercurrent that made Sophia's skin prickle. "This is Sophia Chen, my chef," Gabriel said. And Sophia noticed he did not use the word temporary. "How lovely," Alina said with genuine warmth. "It's wonderful that Gabriel has someone taking care of his nutrition during this difficult time." Camila's smile was less genuine. "Yes, it must be so convenient having live-in help, especially someone so young and attractive." The comment hung in the air like a challenge. Sophia felt her cheeks flush, but before she could respond, Gabriel stepped forward. "Camila, I'd appreciate it if you kept your observations to yourself." "I'm just concerned about you, Gabriel," Camila continued, moving closer to him with the confidence of someone who had once had the right to touch him freely. "You're vulnerable right now, and some people might take advantage of that." Sophia set down the coffee tray with more force than necessary. "If you're implying that I'm taking advantage of Mr. Montenegro, you're wrong. I'm here to do a job, nothing more." But even as she said the words, Sophia knew they were not entirely true. What was happening between her and Gabriel had moved far beyond a professional relationship, and apparently it was obvious to others. "Of course," dear Camila said with false sweetness. "I'm sure you're very professional." Gabriel's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "That's enough, Camila." "Yes." "Sophia has been nothing but respectful and helpful during an incredibly difficult time. I won't have you treating her poorly in my home." Elena looked between her son and the 2 women, clearly sensing undercurrents she did not fully understand. "Perhaps we should discuss why we came," she said diplomatically. "Which is?" Gabriel asked, though his posture suggested he already knew and did not like the answer. "The company needs you," Elena said directly. "The board is getting restless. Roberto's death has already shaken investor confidence, and your continued absence is making things worse." Gabriel ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Sophia had learned meant he was stressed. "I told Father I would return when I was ready." "When will that be?" Camila asked. "Right. You can't hide up here forever, playing house with the help." This time Sophia could not stay silent. "I beg your pardon?" Camila Gabriel's voice carried a warning that made even Sophia step back, but Camila was not deterred. "I'm just saying what everyone is thinking, Gabriel. You've been through a trauma, and you're not thinking clearly. This infatuation with someone so far beneath your social station is just a symptom of your grief." The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia felt as if she had been slapped, not just by the words, but by the casual cruelty with which they were delivered. Gabriel's response was quiet but deadly. "Get out, Gabriel. You can't be serious," Alina protested. "Both of you, get out of my house now." Camila looked genuinely shocked. "You're choosing her over your family? Over your responsibilities?" "I'm choosing respect over manipulation," Gabriel replied, his dark eyes blazing. "I'm choosing honesty over social games. And yes, if that means choosing Sophia over you, then absolutely." A declaration of truth after Alina and Camila left in a storm of indignation and threats about the company's future. The mansion felt eerily quiet. Sophia found herself in the kitchen, mechanically cleaning dishes that were already clean, trying to process what had just happened. Gabriel found her there an hour later, still scrubbing the same plate over and over. "Sophia," he said softly. She did not look up. She was right about some things. This situation is complicated. You're my employer, you're grieving, and I'm definitely not from your social class. Gabriel moved to stand beside her at the sink, gently taking the plate from her hands. "Look at me." When Sophia finally met his eyes, she saw something there that made her breath catch. "Camila was wrong about everything that matters," Gabriel said firmly. "You're not taking advantage of me. You're not beneath anyone's station. And what I feel for you is not a symptom of grief." "What do you feel for me?" Sophia whispered. Gabriel cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she had not realized were falling. "I feel like I'm alive again. Time since Roberto died. I feel like there's something worth fighting for. Gabriel, this is moving so fast. I don't want to be your rebound from loss." "You're not," Gabriel said with conviction. "Sophia, losing Roberto taught me something important. Life is fragile and unpredictable. We don't get guarantees about how much time we have. We do get to choose how we spend whatever time we're given." He stepped closer, until Sophia could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "I choose to spend mine with you, if you'll have me. Not because I'm running from grief, but because you make me want to build something beautiful from what's left." Sophia studied his face, seeing the sincerity in his dark eyes, the vulnerability in the set of his mouth. This man who had defended her against his own family, who had seen her as worthy of protection and care. "I'm scared," she admitted. "So, AM1, Gabriel replied. "But I'm more scared of missing this chance than I am of taking it." Sophia reached up to touch his cheek, feeling the slight roughness of his beard against her palm. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's see where this goes." Gabriel's smile was radiant as he leaned down to rest his forehead against hers. "Together?" Sophia confirmed, as they stood in the warm kitchen, surrounded by the sense of home-cooked meals and the promise of something new beginning. Both Sophia and Gabriel felt the first real hope they had experienced in months. The outside world might judge them, pressure them, try to tear them apart. But in this moment, they had each other. That was enough to start building a future on. The next morning brought a sense of newness to the Montenegro mansion that had nothing to do with the fresh snow covering the mountain peaks. Sophia woke earlier than usual, her heart still racing from the memory of Gabriel's declaration the night before. They had not kissed, had not crossed any physical lines, but something fundamental had shifted between them. She found Gabriel already. In the kitchen, when she came downstairs, standing by the large windows with a cup of coffee in his hands, he was dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark jeans, looking more like the successful businessman he was and less like the grieving hermit he had been when she first arrived. "Good morning," he said, turning as she entered. His smile was different, now warmer and more open than she had ever seen it. "Good morning," Sophia replied, suddenly feeling shy. In the daylight, their conversation from the previous evening felt both more real and more impossible. Gabriel set down his coffee and moved toward her. "Are you having second thoughts?" Sophia considered the question seriously. "About us? About how complicated this might get?" "Absolutely," Gabriel chuckled, a sound that sent warmth through Sophia's chest. "I can work with that level of honesty." They moved around each other in the kitchen with an easy familiarity as they prepared breakfast together. Gabriel handled the coffee and toast while Sophia made her signature scrambled eggs with herbs from the mansion's greenhouse. The domestic scene felt natural, as if they had been doing this for years rather than weeks. "I need to tell you something," Gabriel said as they sat down to eat. "My father called this morning." Sophia felt her stomach tighten. "About yesterday? Among other things?" "The board has called an emergency meeting for next week. They want me to return to the company immediately, or they're prepared to make some changes to the leadership structure." "What kind of changes?" Gabriel's jaw tightened. "The kind that would push me out of the company Roberto and I built together." Sophia reached across the table to touch his hand. "What do you want to do?" 6 weeks ago, I would have said the company was everything. Roberto and I poured our lives into building it. Gabriel turned his hand palm up, intertwining their fingers. But now I'm not sure I want to go back to that life. The constant pressure, the politics, the way people like Camila see everything. As a game to be won, but it's your legacy with Roberto. Maybe our real legacy is the technology we created, the problems we solved, the people whose lives we improved. The company itself might just be a building and a bunch of people in suits. Sophia studied Gabriel's face, seeing the conflict there. You don't have to decide today. Actually, I do. Gabriel squeezed her hand. The board meeting is Monday. If I don't show up, they'll consider it an abandonment of my responsibilities. An unexpected alliance before Sophia could respond. Thomas appeared in the kitchen doorway with an expression of surprise and concern. Mr. Gabriel, there's someone here to see you, says. He's from the technology news magazine Innovation Weekly. Gabriel frowned. I didn't schedule any interviews. He's quite insistent, sir. Says he has information about Montenegro technologies that you need to hear. Gabriel and Sophia exchanged glances. Send him to my study, Gabriel said finally, and Thomas asked him to wait while I finish breakfast. 20 minutes later, they found a nervous-looking man in his 30s pacing around Gabriel's study. He had the eager, slightly rumpled appearance of a journalist who had stumbled onto a big story. Mr. Montenegro, thank you for seeing me. I'm David Park from Innovation Weekly. I've been investigating some irregularities in your company's financial reports. Gabriel's posture shifted into business mode. What kind of irregularities? David pulled out a tablet and began swiping through documents. It started when I was researching the impact of your brother's death on the company's stock price. But I found some transactions that don't make sense. Large amounts of money being moved. Around in the weeks before Roberto's accident, Sophia saw Gabriel go very still. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything yet. But I think someone inside your company has been embezzling funds and using Roberto's death as cover. The timing is too convenient. Gabriel was silent. For a long moment, his business mind clearly processing this information. Do you have proof? Not yet. But I have enough to know that someone with high-level access has been stealing from Montenegro Technologies for months. And if I can find this information as an outsider, the board of directors should have caught it already. Unless someone on the board is involved, Gabriel said quietly. David nodded. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Sophia watched this exchange with growing understanding. Gabriel's own board members were involved in embezzling money, then their pressure for him to return might not be about the company's health at all. What do you need from me? Gabriel asked. Access to your company's internal systems and protection, if I'm right about this. There are people who won't want this story to come out. Gabriel stood up and began pacing, his mind clearly working. Through the implications, if you publish this story, it could destroy the company. If I don't publish it, the people stealing from you will destroy it anyway, David replied. At least this way, you have a chance to clean house and rebuild. Gabriel looked at Sophia, and she could see him wrestling with the decision. This was bigger than just his personal grief or his relationship with her. This was about protecting everything he and Roberto had built together. Do it, Gabriel said finally. I'll give you access to whatever you need. The fight for everything the next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Gabriel's study became a war room where he, David, and a team of forensic accountants worked. Around the clock to trace the stolen money, Sophia found herself playing an unexpected role as coordinator, making sure everyone ate and slept and stayed focused on the task at hand. What they discovered was worse than anyone had imagined. 3 members of the board of directors, including Gabriel's own uncle, had been systematically stealing from the company for over a year. They had used shell companies and fake contracts to funnel millions of dollars into their personal accounts. We're planning to force you out and then buy your shares at a reduced price, David explained on Thursday evening as they reviewed the evidence. Roberto's death just gave them an opportunity to accelerate their timeline. Gabriel's face was grim. They're using my grief against me. More than that, David continued. I think they've been spreading rumors about your mental state, trying to make it seem like you're unfit to run the company, Sophia felt a surge of anger on Gabriel's behalf. That's why your mother and Camila were so insistent that you return immediately. Probably heard these rumors and believed them. Gabriel nodded slowly. Which means I need to show up at that board meeting on Monday and confront them directly. Are you ready for that? Sophia asked. Gabriel looked at her with an expression that was both determined and vulnerable. With you? There? I think I'm ready for anything. The final confrontation Monday morning dawned clear and cold. Gabriel dressed in his most expensive suit, every inch the powerful businessman he had been before tragedy struck. But Sophia could see the nervousness in the way he adjusted his tie 3 times and checked his phone constantly. You don't have to come with me, he said as they prepared to leave for the city. Try to stop me, Sophia replied, smoothing the lapels of his jacket. She was wearing her own best dress, a simple black sheath that made her feel professional and confident. The Montenegro Technologies building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel in downtown San Francisco. As they walked through the lobby, Sophia could feel the stares of employees who recognized Gabriel but had not seen him in weeks. Some looked sympathetic, others curious, and a few seemed almost hostile. The boardroom was on the 40th floor, with windows that offered a spectacular view of the bay. When Gabriel and Sophia entered, the 12 board members already seated around the massive table looked up with expressions ranging from surprise to disapproval. Gabriel's uncle, Fernando Montenegro, was a silver-haired man who looked like an older, harder version of Gabriel. He stood as they entered, his smile not reaching his eyes. Gabriel, finally, we were beginning to wonder if you plan to honor your commitments to this company. My commitments are exactly what I'm here to discuss, Gabriel replied, his voice steady and cold. He took his seat at the head of the table, and Sophia noticed that he did not invite her to sit. Instead, she remained standing behind his chair, a silent show of support that clearly made some board members uncomfortable. Before we begin, Gabriel continued, I'd like to introduce someone who has some information that concerns all of us. Park entered the room with a briefcase full of documents and a laptop. For the next hour, he systematically presented evidence of the embezzlement scheme, naming names and showing financial records that painted a clear picture of betrayal. Sophia watched the faces around the table as the scope of the theft became clear. Some board members looked genuinely shocked, while others, particularly Fernando and his 2 allies, looked increasingly trapped. These are serious accusations, Fernando said when David finished his presentation. But they don't change the fact that Gabriel has been absent during a critical time for the company. You're right, Gabriel said, standing up. I have been absent. I was grieving my brother, trying to figure out how to honor his memory and move forward with our shared vision. He began walking around the table, making eye contact with each board member as he spoke. But while I was grieving, some of you were stealing. While I was trying to heal, you were actively destroying everything Roberto and I built together. Gabriel stopped behind Fernando's chair. Uncle, Roberto trusted you. I trusted you. How could you do this to us? Fernando's composure finally cracked. You think this company runs on sentiment? Roberto was the visionary, but he was also reckless. Someone had to think about practical matters. Practical matters, like lining your own pockets, like preparing. For the inevitable, Fernando shot back. You're not Roberto, Gabriel. You never were. This company needed real leadership, not a grieving boy playing dress-up in his dead brother's shadow. The words hit Gabriel like physical blows, and Sophia saw him falter for a moment. But then he straightened, and when he spoke again, his voice carried authority that filled the entire room. You're right. I'm not Roberto. I never tried to be. Roberto was the dreamer, and I was the one who made his dreams reality. He came up with brilliant ideas, and I figured out how to build them, fund them, and bring them to market. Gabriel returned to his seat but remained standing behind it. Roberto may be gone, but everything we learned together, everything we built together is still here. It's in every line of code, every product design, every customer relationship we've cultivated. He placed his hands on the back of his chair, leaning forward slightly. This company will survive without Roberto because it was never just about one person. It was about innovation, about solving problems, about making people's lives better through technology. Gabriel straightened up, his voice growing stronger. But it won't survive with thieves and manipulators in positions of trust. Fernando, you're fired. Mr. Chen, Ms. Rodriguez, you're both fired. Security will escort you from the building, and you can expect to hear from our lawyers. The room erupted in protests and arguments, but Gabriel remained calm. Sophia watched him take control of the situation with a confidence she had not seen since she met him. This was Gabriel Montenegro, the CEO, the man who had built an empire through intelligence, determination, and unshakable integrity. A new beginning 6 months later, Sophia stood in the kitchen of her new restaurant, Haven, putting the finishing touches on the evening's menu. The space was everything she had dreamed of, warm and welcoming. With an open kitchen that let customers see their food being prepared with love and care, Gabriel appeared in the kitchen doorway. Still wearing his suit from a day of meetings, but with his tie loosened and his sleeves rolled up. Montenegro Technologies was thriving under his renewed leadership, stronger than ever after cleaning out the corruption that had been eating away at its foundation. Sophia asked, not looking up from the sauce she was stirring. Successful. They're excited about the new AI project. Gabriel moved to stand behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and pressing a kiss to her neck. How was your day? We're booked solid for the next 3 weeks. I think. We might need to hire another chef sooner than planned. Gabriel rested his chin on her shoulder, watching her work. Good problems to have. Sophia leaned back against his chest, marveling at how natural this felt. After everything they had been through, the battles with his family, the corporate intrigue, the media attention, when their relationship became public, they had emerged stronger together than either of them had been alone. Roberto would have loved this place, Gabriel said softly, looking around at the bustling kitchen. I think so too, Sophia agreed. He would have been your first customer, demanding to try everything on the menu. Gabriel laughed, a sound that still made Sophia's heart skip after all these months. He would have driven you crazy with special requests and modifications? I would have loved every minute of it. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the organized chaos of a successful restaurant kitchen. Sophia's dream had become reality, funded partially by her own savings and partially by Gabriel's investment in her vision. But more than that, she had found something she had not even known she was looking for. A partner who saw her potential and encouraged her to reach for it. I have something for you, Gabriel said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Sophia's breath caught as she turned in his arms. Gabriel, ... Before you say anything, this isn't pressure. It's a promise. He opened the box to reveal a stunning, solitaire diamond ring. A promise that whatever comes next, we'll face it together. A promise that you'll never have to doubt your worth or your place in my life. Sophia looked from the ring to Gabriel's face, seeing the love and certainty in his dark eyes. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking you to build a life with me. To wake up every morning knowing that someone sees you, values you, and chooses you every single day. Sophia reached up to cup his face in her hands. You know I'm going to say yes. I was hoping, Gabriel said with a grin as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Sophia thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. She had come to his mountain mansion as a broken woman, fleeing heartbreak, hired to cook for a stranger. She was leaving as a successful entrepreneur, engaged to a man who had shown her what real love looked like. I love you, Gabriel Montenegro, she said, standing on her toes to kiss him. I love you too, Sophia Chen, he replied against her lips. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for giving me a life worth saving. Outside the restaurant windows, the San Francisco fog was rolling in from the bay, but inside Haven, surrounded by the warmth of good food and true love, Sophia and Gabriel began planning their future together. A future built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and the unshakable knowledge that they were stronger together than they had ever been apart. In the end, what had started as a job had become a calling, what had begun as healing had become love, and what had seemed like an ending had actually been the most beautiful beginning either of them could have imagined. The story of the cook and the millionaire had become something much more precious. The story of two souls who found each other, in the darkness and chose to build something luminous together. The end.